to the universal will, content in him who smiles behind earth's form, abode ungrieved by the insistent days, about them like green trees, girdling a hill, young grave disciples fashioned by their touch, trained to the simple act and conscious word, greatened within, and go to meet their heights.
Good morning. So we're reading in Book 4, the Book of Birth and Quest, Canto 4, The Quest, and we're on page 384 at the break. We've seen in this Book 4 some beautiful imagery, poetry of the seasons and of the Vedic culture in which Savitri grew up, learning the various arts and crafts, listening to the sages, and then we saw let's see. In the call to the quest, the narrator giving Aswapati a deeper insight into the nature of reality, of how this evolution is still unfinished and that something remains to be accomplished here on earth, that even though the sages have come and gone, earth still is immersed in this ignorance and the sufferings of life. And after this, Aswapati receives this message inwardly. He is inspired to speak to Savitri and ask her to go out into the world to find her mate, her soul companion, of which she's come down to earth not alone, but with another soul that is her counterpart. And she listens to this, and something in her changes, and she realizes herself, her mission on earth. And she leaves the palace during the night. And then goes out into the countryside, into the North Indian landscape of cities, of plains, of mountains. And all of these are beautifully described in this Canto 4. And in addition, she comes across various types of spiritual seekers along her journey, king sages who have retired from their duties of administration and also of warfare, of protecting their kingdom, to, at the end of their lives, to immerse themselves in the seeking for God. And she encounters hermits with their matted hair, deeply absorbed inwardly in trance, just waiting to leave their body and to disappear into the transcendent, unknowable. She sees bhaktis who are immersed in the love of the divine. So all of these different sages and saints she encounters, sits with them, absorbs something from them in her journey. And now, we're towards at the end of the canto, and we'll see some, again, beautiful imagery of the Indian landscape. And we'll see this again continued in the next very short canto, the first canto of the next book, which we should have time to go through. So we can begin. Suresh, would you like to read at the break on 384?
As sports near, sunbeam, throw your shadow face. The golden ribbon in a turban fur came gliding among invitations seats. Often in twilight meet returning tropes of cattle thickening with their dust the shades. When the loud day had slipped below the verge, arriving in a peaceful hermit grove, she rested, drawing round her like a clock its spirit of pattern, muse, and potent prayer. Near to a lion rivers, tawny man, and trees that worshipped on a praying shore, a dome and temple, heirs serene repose, beckoned to her hurrying wheels to stay their speed in the solemnity of a space that seemed a mind remembering ancient silence, bare to the heart, great bygone voice called, and the large liberty of brooding seeds had left the long impress of their souls seen, awake in candid dawn or darkness mooned to the still touch inclined the daughter of flame, drunk in hushed splendor between tranquil lids, and felt the kinship of eternal calm.
Thank you. In these first lines, we get an allusion to Savitri's relation to the sun, symbol of the supermind, because she's floating like a sunbeam through a shady place. And then again, the golden virgin in her carven car came gliding among meditation seats. Again, he refers back to the hermitages and the saints and sages that were discussed in the previous section that she had encountered. Although it didn't refer to her so much in the previous section, here we see she's passing through them, stopping at their hermitages along her way. So, arriving in a peaceful hermit grove, she rested, drawing round her like a cloak its spirit of patient muse and potent prayer. And then a little more description of the countryside. near a lion river's tawny mane, and trees that worshipped on a praying shore, a domed and templed air's serene repose beckoned to her hurrying wheels to stay their speed. Here we see the sky described as domed like a temple enclosing the area, giving it a serene repose, this calm and quiet rest. So passing through these places, she felt to stop for some time and take that in the solemnity of a space that seemed a mind remembering ancient silences, where to the heart great begone voices called, and the large liberty of brooding seers had left the long impress of their souls seen. So these saints and sages that had meditated in these places for many years brought this atmosphere there. And so she felt those silences, perhaps of saints and sages from long ago who had visited those places. And great bygone voices who had perhaps spoken, revealed the truths to their disciples. So they had left an impress of their soul on that place. So awake in candid dawn or darkness mooned, to the still touch inclined the daughter of flame. She was inclined towards these quiet, still places, to these atmospheres. She drank in hushed splendor between tranquil lids and felt the kinship of eternal calm. So it's interesting how Sri Aurobindo blends the spirituality of these saints and sages of this time, of this Vedic period, with the beauty and the silence and the calm of these places in which she's traveling through. Okay, we continue, Naren.
Broke in reminding her of her quest, and from low rustic couch or mat she rose and went impelled on her unfinished way, and followed the fateful orbit of her life like a desire that questions silent gods, then passes star-like to some bright beyond. Thence to great solitary tracts she came, where man was a passer-by towards human scenes, or soul in nature's vastness strove to live, and called for help to unsouled invisible powers, overwhelmed by the immensity of his world and unaware of his own infinity. The earth multiplied to her a changing brow and called her with a firm and nameless voice. The mountains in their anchorite solitude, the forests with their magnitudinous chant, disclose to her the masked divinity's doors.
Thank you. So after resting for the night at these places, these hermit groves, she felt upon waking that her task was unfinished, and she continued on her way, searching for her mate, her soulmate. She followed the fateful orbit of her life, like a desire that questions silent gods. But she was, in a way, pursuing her mate, her fated companion. But she's not finding as of yet. So it's like questioning silent gods who aren't responding to her search, to her desire. And it kind of alludes to the planets or a comet that circle in their orbits continually around, comparing her journey, something like that, and then passes star-like to some bright beyond. She too will pass beyond. And then she comes into solitary tracks, places where there are very few, if any, people, where man was a passerby towards human scenes, only some travelers passing through, or soul in nature's vastness strove to live, or a few may have attempted to live in these places, these solitary tracks, on their own, calling for help to the invisible powers, overwhelmed by the immensity of his world and unaware of his own infinity. So a few people may be living there alone, perhaps struggling to some sense to survive in those desolate places. And then the earth multiplied to her a changing brow, and called her with a far and nameless voice. So she's called to new scenes, new places. The mountains in their anchorite solitude, the forests with their multitudinous chant, disclose to her the masked divinity's doors. For Sri Aurobindo, nature is an outer expression of the divine, holding within it the divine. So she was feeling in these natural places the divinity behind. She saw the masked divinity's doors. So she could enter into the divinity behind the nature. It's partly inherent in Sri Aurobindo's descriptions of these places, that beauty, because he senses the divinity in all of these scenes of nature, in all of these places, the mountains, the deserts, the forests, the rivers, the valleys. For each, they're kind of symbolic of some particular mood or feeling associated with the divine. Sudani, continue.
On dreaming plains, an indolent expanse, the dead bed of a pale, enchanted eve, under the glamour of a sunken sky. Impassive she lay as at an age end, or cross an eager pack of huddled hills, lifting their heads to hunt a lyre-like sky, or travel in a strange and empty land, where desolate summits cramp in a worried heaven. Mute sentinels beneath a drifting moon, or wander in some lone tremendous wood, ringing forever with the cricket's cry, or followed a long glistening serpent road through fields and pastures lapped in moveless light, or reached the wild beauty of a desert pace, where never plough was driven nor herd had gaze, and slumber upon stripe and thirsty sand, amid the savage wild beast night's appeal, still unaccomplished was the faithful quest, still she found not the one predestined face, for which she sought amid the sons of men. A grandiose silence wrapped the regal day. The months had fed the passions of the sun, and now his burning breath assailed the soil. The tiger hits prowl through the fainting heart. All was licked up as by a lulling tongue. The spring wind felt was set like a bronze. End of Canto 4.
Savitri passes through these various places, the dreaming plains, indolent expanses, kind of quiet, unmoving, lazy stretches of fields, which he describes as the deathbed of a pale, enchanted eve. under the glamour of a sunken sky. Impassive she lay as at an age's end. So these are the wide plains she passes through, and then she crosses an eager pack of huddled hills huddled together, closely situated together, lifting their heads to hunt a lair-like sky. A lair is a den in which animals sleep, like a cave or maybe a hole underneath the ground. So the sky is like the roof of such a place, enclosing the landscape. Or she traveled in a strange and empty land where desolate summits capped in a weird heaven, mute sentinels beneath a drifting moon. So these are hills, perhaps the foothills of the Himalayas. They're desolate summits, they're kind of empty, with no vegetation. Their summits were camped in a weird heaven against the sky, which were like mute sentinels beneath a drifting moon. So also at nighttime, she may pass through these places. Or she wandered in some lone, tremendous wood, forest, ringing forever with the cricket's cry. Or followed a long, glistening serpent road, a road winding through the hills, through fields and pastures, lapped in moveless light. Or reach the wild beauty of a desert space, where never plow was driven nor herd had grazed, and slumbered upon stripped and thirsty sands. Again, no vegetation. These are some deserts in North India. Amid the savage wild beast night's appeal. These are wild places. Again, hardly any people will be moving there, just passing through, but perhaps filled with some, or having some wild beasts prowling through that area. So still unaccomplished was the fateful quest. Still she found not the one predestined face for which she sought amid the sons of men. A grandiose silence wrapped the regal day. The months had fed the passion of the sun. She has already been traveling for months. It is heating up into the summer. Now the sun's burning breath assailed the soil. The tiger heats prowled through the fainting earth. All was licked up as by a lulling tongue. The spring winds failed. The sky was set like bronze.
Describing summer like a lion's thing. Like a lion.
Yeah, prowling, tiger heats prowling. Yeah, it's getting very hot. The winds are failing. And the sky was set like bronze. So now, Savitri is approaching the place where she will meet Satyavan. So we can begin with Book 5, the Book of Love. So the first canto describes this place where she encounters Satyavan. And again, it'll be mostly just beautiful scenery describing this place. So we lost our microphone? Okay. Ramesh.
Canto 1, the destined meeting place. But now the destined spot and hour were close. Unknowing she had neared her nameless goal. For though a dress of blind and devious chance is laid upon the work of all-wise fate, our acts interpret an omniscient force that dwells in the compelling stuff of things. And nothing happens in the cosmic play but at its time and its foreseen place. To a space she came of soft and delicate air that seemed a sanctuary of youth and joy, a highland world of free and green delight, where spring and summer lay together and strove in indolent and amicable debate, unarmed, disputing with laughter who should rule. Their expectation beat wide, sudden wings, as if a soul had looked out from earth's face, and all that was in her felt a coming change, and forgetting obvious joys and common dreams, obedient to time's call, to the Spirit's fate, was lifted to a beauty calm and pure that lived under the eyes of eternity.
Thank you. Turn. Jean.
A crowd of mountainous heads assailed the sky, pushing towards rival shoulders near heaven. The armored leaders of an iron line, earth prostrate lay beneath their feet of stone. Below them crouched a dream of emerald woods, and gleaming borders solitary as sleep. Pale waters ran like glimmering threads of pearl. A sigh was straying among happy leaves, cool perfumed with slow pleasure burdened feet. Faint stumbling breezes faltered among flowers. The white crane stood, a vivid, motionless streak. Peacock and parrot jeweled soil and tree. The dove's slow moan enriched the enamored air, and fire-winged wild drakes swam in silvery pools. Earth crouched alone with her great lover heaven, uncovered to her consort's azure eye. In a luxurious ecstasy of joy, she squandered the love music of her notes. wasting the passionate pattern of their blooms, a festival riot of her scents and hues. A cry and leap and hurry was around, the stealthy footfalls of her chasing things, the shaggy emerald of her centaur mane, the gold and sapphire of her warmth and blaze.
Thank you.
Magician of her rapt felicities, blithe, sensuous-hearted, careless and divine, life ran or hid in her delightful rooms. Behind all brooded nature's grandiose calm. Primeval peace was there, and in its bosom held undisturbed the strife of bird and beast. Man, the deep-browed artificer, had not come to lay his hand on happy inconscient things. Thought was not there, nor the measurer, strong-eyed toil. Life had not learned its discord with its aim. The mighty mother lay outstretched at ease. All was in line with her first satisfied plan. Moved by a universal will of joy, the trees bloomed in their green felicity, and the wild children brooded not on pain. At the end reclined a stern and giant tract of tangled depths and solemn questioning hills, peaks like a bare austerity of the soul, armored, remote, and desolately grand, like the thought-screened infinities that lie behind the rapt smile of the Almighty's dance.
Thank you. Ellen?
A matted forest had invaded heaven, as if a blue-throated ascetic peered from the stone fastness of his mountain cell, regarding the brief gladness of the days. His vast, extended spirit couched behind. A mighty murmur of immense retreat besieged the ear, a sad and limitless call as of a soul retiring from the world. This was the scene which the ambiguous mother had chosen for her brief felicitous hour. Here, in this solitude far from the world, her part she began in the world's joy and strife. Here were disclosed to her the mystic chords, the lurking doors of beauty and surprise, the wings that murmur in the golden house, the temple of sweetness and the fiery isle. A stranger on the sorrowful roads of time, immortal under the yoke of death and fate, a sacrificant of the bliss and pain of the spheres, love in the wilderness met Savitri.
Thank you. So we'll go back to the beginning. Okay.
Satyabhan? All she remembered on this day of fate.
No. We're starting at the beginning of the canto. Canto 1.
The destined meeting place. But now the destined spot and hour were close, unknowing she had neared her nameless goal. For though a dress of blind and devious chance is laid upon the work of all-wise fate, our acts interpret an omniscient force that dwells in the compelling stuff of things. And nothing happens in the cosmic play but at its time and in its foreseen place.
Continue.
To a space she came of soft and delicate air that seemed a sanctuary of youth and joy, a highland world of free and green delight, where spring and summer lay together and strove in indolent and amicable debate, unarmed, disputing with laughter who should rule. Their expectation beat wide sudden wings, as if a soul had looked out from earth's face, and all that was in her felt a coming change, and forgetting obvious joys and common dreams, obedient to time's call to the spirit's fate, was lifted to a beauty calm and pure that lived under the eyes of eternity.
Thank you. At the start of the Canto, Sri Aurobindo returns to this important theme that runs throughout Savitri of fate and destiny. So it begins, but now the destined spot and hour were close. So it's as if it's predetermined that this would be the place and the time in which she would encounter Satyavan. Unknowing she had neared her nameless goal. For though a dress of blind and devious chance is laid upon the work of all-wise fate, our acts interpret an omniscient force that dwells in the compelling stuff of things. So she is unaware that she is coming to her place, to the place and time, just like we ourselves go through life, not understanding that our destiny is being worked out in our actions. So it seems like a blind and devious chance, but actually it's the work of all-wise fate. And our acts are interpreting an omniscient force, an all-knowing force and energy is working through us that dwells in the compelling stuff of things. It is compelling things to unfold as they do. And nothing happens in the cosmic play but at its time and in its foreseen place. So that's setting the stage for this encounter that Savitri has. To a space she came of soft and delicate air that seemed a sanctuary of youth and joy, a highland world of free and green delight, where spring and summer lay together and strove in indolent and amicable debate, inarmed, disputing with laughter who should rule. She's coming into the higher altitudes of the hills. So here it's cooler. Before the summer heat was intense, but now she's come up in altitude. So it's kind of between spring and summer. And spring and summer are kind of disputing who should rule this particular moment. So they're playing in joy, in laughter. And then their expectation beat wide, sudden wings, as if a soul had looked out from earth's face, and all that was in her felt a coming change. So suddenly, the atmosphere changes, something comes as if something unexpected, something new is about to happen. And she feels that. Perhaps nature also is sensing it. And forgetting obvious joys and common dreams, obedient to time's call, to the Spirit's fate, was lifted to a beauty calm and pure that lived under the eyes of eternity. So she's following time's call, the Spirit's fate. Okay. You continue.
A crowd of mountainous heads assailed the sky, pushing towards rival shoulders nearer heaven, the armored leaders of an iron line. Earth, prostrate, lay beneath their feet of stone. Below them crouched a dream of emerald woods and gleaming borders solitary as sleep. Pale waters ran glimmering threads of pearl. A sigh was straying among happy leaves, cool, perfumed with slow, pleasure-burdened feet. Faint, stumbling breezes faltered among flowers. The white crane stood, a vivid, motionless streak. Peacock and parrot, jeweled soil and tree. The dove's soft moan enriched the enamored air, and fire-winged wild drakes swam in silvery pools. Earth couched alone with her great lover heaven, uncovered to her consort's azure eyes. In a luxurious ecstasy of joy, she squandered the love music of her notes, wasting the passionate pattern of her blooms and festival riot of her scents and hues. A cry and leap and hurry was around, the stealthy footfalls of her chasing things, the shaggy emerald of her centaur mane, the gold and sapphire of her warmth and blaze.
Thank you. Sri Aurobindo elaborates a little more on the scene. We've seen that she's entering a highland world, a free and green delight, and we've seen the season kind of between spring and summer. And now he describes more a crowd of mountainous heads assail the sky, pushing towards rival shoulders near heaven, the armored leaders of an iron line. So it suggests mountains behind mountains, looking back, perhaps higher and higher mountains as further in the distance, pushing towards rival shoulders nearer heaven. The armored leaders of an iron line, earth prostrate, lay beneath their feet of stone. And then below them crouched a dream of emerald woods, in gleaming borders, solitary as sleep. Pale waters ran like glimmering threads of pearl. So below the mountains, or perhaps towards their base, there are these emerald woods, emerald green woods, and gleaming borders, solitary as sleep. And then pale waters ran like glimmering threads of pearl. So I suppose these gleaming borders may be these rivers winding below the mountains in the valley, solitary as sleep. Just like we, when we're asleep, are as if alone, even though things may be around us. A sigh was straying among happy leaves, cool, perfumed with slow, pleasure-burdened feet. Faint, stumbling breezes faltered among flowers. So he speaks of the breeze passing through, straying through the leaves, and then below, faint stumbling breezes faltered among the flowers on the ground. The white crane stood, a vivid, motionless streak. Peacock and parrot jeweled soil and tree. The dove's soft moan enriched the enamored air, and fire-winged wild drakes swam in silvery pools. Very beautiful imagery. Earth couched alone with her great lover, heaven. This is also symbolic of, there is this earth and matter, and above the spiritual consciousness, the sky represented by the sky, the earth representing the material base of the evolution. Uncovered to her consort's azure eye. So the earth is uncovered before this limitless eye of heaven that sees all, just as the spiritual consciousness above can look upon all in a single glance. In a luxurious ecstasy of joy, she squandered the love music of her notes. Here I think he's speaking of nature probably, wasting the passionate pattern of her blooms and festival riot of her scents and hues. There's this riot, this many different scents and colors. A cry and leap and hurry was around, the stealthy footfalls of her chasing things, the little animals chasing through the forest, the shaggy emerald, that's the trees above, of her centaur mane, the gold and sapphire of her warmth and blaze, the gold and blue and of the warm sky. Narendra.
Magician of her rapt felicities, blithe, sensuous-hearted, careless and divine, life ran or hid in her delightful rooms. Behind all brooded nature's grandiose calm. Primeval peace was there, and in its bosom held undisturbed the strife of bird and beast. Man, the deep-browed artificer, had not come to lay his hand on happy, inconscient things. Thought was not there, nor the measurer, strong-eyed toil. Life had not learned its discord of its aim. The mighty mother lay outstretched at ease. All was in line with her first satisfied plan. Moved by a universal will of joy, the trees bloomed in the green felicity, and the wild children brooded not on pain. At the end reclined a stern and giant retract of tangled depths and solemn questioning hills, peaks like a bare austerity of the soil, armored, remote, and desolately grand, like the thought-screened infinities that lie behind the rapt smile of the almighty dance.
Thank you. Magician of her rapt felicities. Here he's speaking of life. She's a magician of her enraptured felicities, of her great, intense happiness, blithe, sensuous-hearted, careless, and divine. Blithe, happy, I think. Yeah, happy.
It is like smoothly moving, senseless moving.
I just noticed that he uses all iron line matter, then antiquation, natural, then gold and sapphire. It's also very symbolic of all these features.
So the symbolism in the earlier descriptions, the iron of matter.
Yes, iron represents matter.
And he's describing the peaks of the mountains. Yeah, the stone.
The 12 stones, the stones he uses, emerald and sapphire and gold. I think it's very symbolic and something to do as changing of the context to more soul in space.
Yeah, in the green of life. And the gold and sapphire, right. Sapphire, this blue, is also symbolic of the higher spiritual consciousness. Gold of the supermind.
Building a very strong context for communication to make it extremely fundamental and limited self-direct. But one thing I couldn't get is who are the wild children?
Oh, those are the little animals.
Oh, they're animals. Wild
the little squirrels. Birds and little creatures running around. Life. Life ran or hid in her delightful rooms. And then a little further down, held undisturbed the strife of bird and beast. So I think that's what he's referring to.
It comes after the trees. The trees, they bloom, and the wild children do not pain. So I don't, so if you have something that would bring on the pain, I couldn't make the connection there.
Well, he's saying that mankind had not come to this place, had not settled here, hadn't disturbed this place. It was still a place built on life's first plan, or, it was just a vital kind of life. Mind had not come and disturbed that routine of life.
But doesn't that contradict the thing where he has all those aesthetics there and all those ornaments are right coming in already? The mind is there.
Well, but they've kind of come out of the cities and the life, and they've come only to meditate, right? I mean, they've come out of that world of mind.
So now he's describing the space where they are going to meet. As she is saying that earth and life are going on, like the animals are fighting, I mean they are eating each other, but each earth is not troubled by all those their pain. The animals, one animal kills another, but that mind is not, because pain is felt by the mind. So that the reason has not. So nature is doing its own game or its own play, and there's no pain here. It's a play of nature.
Medication was primarily an intuitive age, so there was here and exit, they are intuitive. So he says strong guide for a measure thought, the modern mental
Right. So yeah, it's a wilderness. It's a forest in the mountains, and there's mainly just life there. There's the flowers, there's the trees, there's nature. There are these few hermit groves that dot the area, but these people also are not involved in a kind of active life. They're just quiet. Yeah. Yeah. Also, they are in harmony with nature. So life had not learned its discord with its aim.
This meeting place is different from the house where he's going to live, which is probably nearby, but not this spot yet.
Right, right. That's true.
One must have gone out to the woods, working something or resting or meditating. That's almost discovered. And I am looking at all was in line with the first satisfied plan. So nature's
plan.
First plan for the life goes harmoniously.
Right, exactly. All that disturbance and that comes really with mind. At first, life can just go on quite harmoniously. I mean, there is, like you say, the violence of animals eating animals or whatever, but it's all part of nature and it happens quite spontaneously. And they don't brood on the pain, I think he mentions. Yeah. It's mind that, amplifies the pain and suffering of life. So this first satisfied plan, moved by a universal will of joy. That's the plan of nature in this first stage. The trees bloomed in their green felicity, and the wild children, the animals of the place, brooded not on pain. And then it describes again the scene, the place. At the end reclined a stern and giant tract of tangled depths and solemn questioning hills, peaks like a bare austerity of the soul, armored, remote, and desolately grand. So it's quite a primeval place, thick with vegetation, and then above the mountains.
She's come to the hilly area again, after the forest.
Yeah, I think it's kind of in the foothills somewhere of the Himalayas, it seems. But you can see even the higher peaks behind. Like the thought-screened infinities that lie behind the rapt smile of the Almighty's dance. We have this dance of life, of Shiva, but behind is this infinity screened by the thought. So we continue.
A matted forest head invaded heaven, as if a blue-throated ascetic peered from the stone fastness of his mountain cell. regarding the brief gladness of the days, his vast extended spirit couched behind. A mighty murmur of immense retreat besieged the air, a sad and limitless call, as of a soul returning from the world. This was the scene which the ambiguous mother had chosen for her brief felicious hour. Here is this solitude far from the world. Her part she began in the world's joy and strife. Here were disclosed to her the mystic courts, the lurking doors of beauty and surprise, the wings that murmur in the golden house, the temple of sweetness and the fairy asile, strangers on the sorrowful roads of time, immortal under the yoke of death and fate, a sacrificant of the bliss and pain of the sphere. Love in the wilderness met Savitri in the Canto 1.
It's a beautiful passage. It begins with this wonderful image. A matted forest head invaded heaven, as if a blue-throated ascetic peered from the stone fastness of his mountain cell. So we get the image of this forested hill, forest-covered hill, invading heaven, reaching up towards heaven, as if a blue-throated ascetic. So that reminds us of Shiva with his throat stained blue from the poison, I think, right? So as if he's peering up towards the heaven from the stone fastness of his mountain cell, as if from his cave, Shiva is looking upwards towards heaven, regarding the brief gladness of the days, enjoying, just looking out from his cave, perhaps, while his vast extended spirit couched behind. Within that vast, extended, infinite spirit was held behind. He's looking out, enjoying the gladness of the days. And then a mighty murmur of immense retreat besieged the ear, a sad and limitless call, as of a soul retiring from the world. So it's apparently the murmur of the sounds of nature, of the insects and birds and trees blowing in the wind. So there's this sound. Nothing else, only the sounds of nature.
He's talking about retreat and sadness also. What's retreat?
Because, it's again related, I think, to this Shiva, this ascetic who's retreating from the world. This place, it's very remote. Only anchorites, only these ascetics are going to this place. So it's very far from the world and from the world of men. And there's just this nature, these sounds of nature around. It's very silent except for these sounds of nature. Yeah. Also, the ascetics also, I mean, they felt the sorrow of existence of the world, and so they wanted to leave all of that. No, he's describing the place, but he's using these images as exemplars of that. Yeah, it's as if Shiva is looking out from his cave.
Shiva is looking from Man's Kailash. He's sitting there on the Kailash, for example. Stones are fixed. It's not nothing.
Not moving fast, but still fixed. Yeah. Unmoving. So here, this is the scene which the ambiguous mother had chosen for her brief felicitous hour. Here in this solitude, far from the world, her part she began in the world's joy and strife. So this is the place and time that the mother had chosen for Savitri's brief felicitous hour, her brief happy hour. In this solitude, far from the world, she began her part in the world's joy and strife. Now she's coming into her own work and mission. Here were disclosed to her the mystic courts. Now, it seems to me, I mean, she's coming from the palaces, from those kinds of courts, but now she's entering into the mystic courts. This is this spiritual place where she's going to enter into the spiritual consciousness, the lurking doors of beauty and surprise, the wings that murmur in the golden house. Again, it suggests something perhaps flying upwards towards supermind. Could mean the psychic. Could be the psychic contact she's feeling or is about to feel. The temple of sweetness and the fiery isle. What?
Golden house and wings means bird.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just suggested possibly it's symbolically referring to supermind because she's entering into these mystic courts, you know? But otherwise there might be some surface meaning for it. I don't know, the golden house, the sunshine or something, I don't know.
inside, the doors and the golden inside.
Oh.
It's just something so true.
So that she's suggesting it's the psychic being, this golden house within.
There's wings and even move, and then you enter into the world, and then there's a sweetness like.
Yeah, sweetness is associated with that. And the fiery isle, this is I think the isle of marriage that at least in the Christian tradition, we walk down the aisle. The bride walks down the aisle of the church to get married at the front of the church. Aisle?
Yeah, aisle where the idol sits.
Not idol, it says aisle.
I know, because he is in a temple. So this line refers to the temple where there is an aisle and there is a fire. Small fire.
Oh, there's an aisle in the temple. Okay. Okay, it could be. Then she's a stranger on the sorrowful roads of time. Savitri. No, if you want to speak to everybody, not just to him. Okay. So she's immortal under the yoke of death and fate. She's an immortal being, but she's come under the yoke of death and fate, like all mortal beings. A sacrificant of the bliss and pain of the spheres. She's one who sacrifices the bliss and the pain of the spheres of the world. Here, love in the wilderness met Savitri. So she will meet love here in this place.
The second line is still mysterious.
Which second line?
It's love. It's not Savitri, but love. The love. The body of love is a stranger on the sorrowful road of time. Because he is a sacrificant of the bliss and the pain of the soul.
So,
Savitri comes as an embodiment of this love.
So you're saying love is the stranger?
Yes.
No, I think she's talking of Savitri. Here he's talking of Savitri.
No,
And now she was stranger,
many
love
other
and sorrow.
interpretations also.
Love and then she said.
No, it's both. See, it has to be both. She's sacrificing to come in.
Yeah, that is so.
So, but she's immortal, and love is immortal, and all those things are the same. So he throws it out that way to understand these are not like single things. It's an integral.
So, yeah, I see that the subject here is coming only in the last line. That's what you're suggesting, love. In the last line of that 4-line sentence. But love in the wilderness met Savitri. Excuse me?
I'm not clear about the stranger. Fourth line from bottom. Who is the stranger?
love is a stranger on earth because it's not pure and it gets distorted in debate. That's why it's the magnificent of the bliss and the sphere.
So love is a stranger. Well, we're suggesting that it's love. Love is the subject which comes only in the last line of the canto. Love. So he begins a stranger on the sorrowful roads of time, immortal. Again, speaking of love, is immortal, under the yoke of death and fate, a suffragant.
Savitri is a stranger to all these things.
Well, that's what I was saying, but actually it's love. But maybe it's both, as B suggests. Okay.
She comes as an embodiment of love.
Yes.
That is in, higher level.
Okay. I think there's a little too much talking by everybody with one another. It's not good. Okay. You're just continuing what I'm just asking you not to do. Okay. So let's stop for today. Okay, we're finished for today. Let's play some music.
Separating mysterious lines,
Oh.
in many ways. Last 10 to 15 lines.
Matted forest head invaded heaven, as if a blue-throated ascetic peered from the stone fastness of his mountain cell, regarding the brief gladness of the days. His vast extended spirit couched behind.
Thanks to Sri Aurobindo.